Hey everybody, Frank Iglesias here. And first of all, I want to thank you, if you're watching this, for coming out to our meetup the other day when we had Keith Jones talk about how he got 15 deals done in a 30-day time period. So thank you for coming. I hope you took a lot of great notes. I know I saw a lot of you taking notes, which was great. I know my coach always tells me if you go to a meeting you're not taking notes, then what are you doing? So I'm glad to see a lot of you were taking notes and making some things happen. So good for you. It is my understanding there was a little bit of perhaps some confusion in some of what he shared and just wasn't quite clear on maybe some action items. So I'm here to make this video to clarify it because I want to make sure there's no questions because I want you to take action. And so that is actually the first of two prerequisites that I need you to do before I recap the technique. Step one, you're going to take massive action. Two, you're going to do it consistently. Because if you don't do those two things, quite frankly, it doesn't matter what technique it is. So promise me you're going to do that. I know you will. You took the time that came out, and I thank you for coming. So what was the technique? I just want to make sure it was clear. And maybe I remember I reiterated it back to him at the end of the meeting, but you may have left a little bit early, perhaps. I know sometimes people have commitments, so forth. So I just want to rehash it because I want to make sure everybody's got it. And it was just easier for me to say it rather than bring Keith in and go through it all again. So I'll just go ahead and share it with you. And the technique is real simple. What you want to do is find sellers that own a larger number of properties. That's it. It's that simple. Find sellers that own a larger number of properties. And what you do with them is no different than you would do with a single seller. You build relationship. What do we call building rapport? Have rapport with that seller. As you build rapport, you hopefully reach a point where you make an offer, and then you can do business. It's the same thing when you have a seller has multiple properties. It all starts the same way. You're going to meet them, and you're going to build rapport, and hopefully that will lead to you doing a bunch of deals with them because they already own a bunch of properties. So where do you find these sellers? Step one, where do you find them? And I remember I didn't hear everything Keith said because I was running around a little bit during the meeting, and I was doing some pictures as well. Some of you were asking me questions on the side. But I remember he said, step one, where do you find them? At the auction. Okay, usually a lot of people that go buy at the auction, they usually buy a bunch of properties, especially in counties where there's just a larger volume of properties. You can find them there. If you go to the auction every month, you'll meet some of them. You will. You just will. If your goal is to go meet people, you will run into some of them. Your second way to meet them, simple. Go find lists. Whether it's ListSource, you go to CompleteComps.com like I was talking about, you can get lists from there. Wherever you go, look for sellers that own a larger number of properties. And then you reach out to them, no different than you would a single seller. Okay, it might be through direct mail, it might be through a cold call, it might be, in this case, it might be a visit to their office, whatever the case may be. Okay, and no matter how you meet them, step one is always the same: provide value. Okay, and that's what you do when you build rapport. You're looking to provide value. If you do not provide value, it doesn't really matter what the technique is. So make sure you do that, okay? And the beauty of this technique is it's super simple. It's very similar to what you do with one person. You're just dealing with someone that has more. And because they have more properties, they tend to be a little more sophisticated, but not always. Some people are some people are very simple, and that's by their choice. So there's no right or wrong. Just understand they could be more sophisticated, but they may not be. But if they are, no big deal. And keep in mind, when someone owns a bunch of properties, it's very likely that they will be vetting you just as much as you're vetting them during that rapport building process. In fact, I had a situation happen to me some time back where I had a seller and they had one property, and we got to where we came to an agreement for a contract on one. And then at that point, it was like, oh, but Frank, by the way, I have these 3 other properties. Now, it wasn't 15, but it was 4. And guess what happened? We bought all 4. We did 4 deals instead of 1. But it didn't happen till we vetted the 1. So when you talk to these sellers and you know that they own multiple properties, don't be surprised if you're only talking about 1 deal to start. Okay? Don't be surprised. It might happen that way. They got to vet you too. Okay? And you got to provide value every step of the way. Okay, so just keep that in mind. But if you do that and you provide value, they may give you the keys to the kingdom, so to speak, in terms of opportunity to move more of their properties. And one of the things I mentioned to Keith the other day, was I said, let me get this straight. You first, in his case, he first wholesaled a bunch of properties to one buyer. Okay, so he was already doing his thing. He just happened to sell a bunch to one person. And because that went so well, he formed that relationship, that bond, so to speak, that when that seller was ready to sell, guess who got the call? So he got to work it on the wholesale to them side and then on the sell back side. And consequently, he got 15 in 30 days. That's fantastic. That's the power of a relationship, by the way. When you meet people who have multiple properties and you build that kind of rapport, that's powerful. And the beauty is, it's very simple. It's really not much different than when you're dealing with one seller. You may have to put a little bit more effort into it because they have multiple sellers or multiple properties. And like I said, sometimes they'll be more sophisticated. But as long as your focus is offering value and the seller's sincere, they feel it, they hear it, they feel it in their gut, they sense it, some very positive things can happen. In fact, I'm looking at a deal right now that's a similar type scenario where the seller has disclosed they own a bunch of other properties. But right now we're just dealing with one. Frank's got to deliver on one before we're ready to talk about the others. But I don't know, maybe I'll be doing 15 and 30 days before long. It's entirely possible, and that's what we're working towards. So we'll see what happens. So I hope this clarifies the technique for you. I don't want to be there any ambiguity. I want it to be absolutely clear. It's powerful, 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 and it's simple. Okay, don't let the simplicity trip you up. We live in a world that it's almost like we almost don't believe things unless they're complicated sometimes. Don't fall into that trap. Real estate is simple. Keep it simple. People, business, build rapport with them. You know where to find them. I tell you where to find them. And most importantly, first two things I said, you got to take massive action and do it consistently. If you do it consistently, you might be coming to us soon and saying, hey, I found a seller. He owned 20 properties, or maybe it was 10, or maybe it's 30, whatever the number is. It's nice to do a lot of deals with one seller. It's real nice. Okay, it's a cool experience. So definitely want to encourage you to put this trick in your wheelhouse and make it run. So if there's any questions, reach out to me. Send me an email, info@workingwithhouses.com. Again, info@workingwithhouses.com. Or you can call our office, 678-408-2228. Let them know the purpose of your call, and they'll pass the message on. I'll get back to you and we can have a conversation. So again, I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope this clears up any ambiguity, because I want to make sure everybody's got it and you take massive action on it. Good luck to you with your success, and I hope to see you next month. Thanks again for coming out Tuesday. See you soon. Thanks.